Hello, welcome to the Omnivorous Bookworm. My name is Lauren, and today I wanted to do the Jane Austen at Home book tag. So I was tagged by Bookings and Books, and so I will have that video posted down below, and I will also link down below the original tag video, which was done by Tilly's Shelf. So if you're interested in doing the tag, you can check that out. So we're supposed to tag someone, so I decided to tag Janelle from Too Fond of Books. She's been so kind to comment on a couple of my videos, so if you would like to do it, you're welcome to. Obviously, I know not everybody likes to do book tags, and a lot of us are busy right now in the summer trying to do everything. So if you don't want to do it, don't worry about it. But if you do, then go ahead. So each of these are different prompts that have like houses from Jane Austen. So hence Jane Austen at Home. So it has like a little quote about the house, and then there's like a question. And there are 10 of them. So the first one is from Mansfield Park, and it says, "The grandeur of the house astonished, but could not console her. Name a grand book that may or may not have been difficult to read." So I chose Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This book is pretty long, like really long, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting, but you do get these sort of long sections of descriptions about farming, which is like sometimes a little bit like, this is interesting. But I didn't mind it. Like I've heard other people complain about it, but when I read it the only time I read it, I didn't really know what to expect, so I just kind of went into it and was just enjoying the experience. And I'm like, oh, we're talking about farming now. But yeah, I like that one. But it is definitely a grand book. Alright, the second one is for Barton College. Cottage. Not cottage. Cottage. In comparison of Norland, it was poor and small indeed. Name a book about a household in difficult circumstances. So I chose A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. This was published in 1943. It's about a family, and it shows the generations that immigrated from Austria and Ireland. And it shows sort of the impact of generational addiction, generational poverty, just the struggles that this family had, coming to a new place, and being poor on top of it, and all these different issues that come up, and just, when families are really poor, and it's just like things just keep hitting them, and it's just, it will break your heart. It's a really compelling story, though, and it also focuses on the tenacity of these people. So like, even though they're poor and they're in really bad circumstances, and not just financially poor, but just the poverty and the addiction and the poverty surrounding them in their neighborhood, and how difficult that is, and how you may not be able to overcome that in those circumstances, but you can survive, and maybe you can do a little bit better. And sort of that, it's bleak in some ways, but it's also hopeful. So I think hence like A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. I enjoyed that book. The next one I have, let's see, number 3 is Hartfield. And the quote is, "I believe few married women are half as much mistress of their husband's house as I am of Hartfield. Name a book that you feel entirely the mistress of." So I have to say Little Women by Louise May Alcott. I love this book. I loved it growing up. It has so much nostalgia for me. I like to read it, at least part of it, around Christmas, if not the whole book. It's just one of those books that I know all of it. I even watched the movie, the 1990s movie, recently on Netflix, and I was just like, it just reminded me how much I love the book, and I want to read it again. I love it so much. So I don't know. I feel like that book influenced me a lot because I write and I'm a teacher. So um, number 4, Fullerton. Now there was nothing so charming to her imagination as the unpretending comfort of a well-connected parsonage, something like Fullerton. Name a book containing a contented family. So Little Women could be for this one too, right? I think they're like the most contented family. I had a hard time with this one, not surprisingly, but I decided to pick a little bit different book that a lot of people haven't heard of because I don't know. I like to tell people about this series because I feel like more people should read it. It's the Eugenia Patterson Mysteries by Tyora Moody. I believe there's like 6 of them. I've only read the first 3. Um, but I really enjoy it. It follows a retired school teacher who's also a widow, and she has a son who's a doctor, a son who's a lawyer, I think, and then her daughter is a single mom of 2 kids. And they have some problems that happen in their family, but they really love each other and they're contented, which I think is a great word because no family is happy all the time, but like you can be content with each other and love each other, and even when things happen, like you work through it and you go on. And so I really like that family and the dynamics of that family. And then of course, like there's always it's a mystery series, so there's always murders that Eugene is having to like solve, and that's usually the forefront of the book, but in the background she has her family, and I really enjoy them. Let's see. Rosines Park is number 5. He declared he might almost have supposed himself in the small summer breakfast parlor at Rosines, a comparison that did not at first convey much gratification. Name a book that other books are constantly being compared to. So this is a book that I've read, I think at the end of last year, which was Dracula by Bram Stoker. I feel like this book gets compared in so many different ways, whether it's the gothic, the horror, the classicness of it. It's also an epistolary novel. But it's one of those books too that I feel like a lot of people think they know, but when I read it, at least I was surprised by a lot of things. And also, I think we're out of it now, but there were so many vampire books written, and whenever you have any type of vampire, it's always compared to Dracula. Is it like Dracula? Not like Dracula? And as far as like the spookiness, the scariness of Dracula, a lot of people will compare, how scary a horror or a thriller is by comparing it to Dracula sometimes. Um, and then it also has like supernatural elements that some books might compare it to. So I think because of its content and because of its historical importance, a lot of people compare books to Dracula. So that was the one I picked. Number 6, HMS Sloop, the Asp, quite worn out and broken up. I was the last man who commanded her. Show us a book that is looking the worse for wear. Okay, this is kind of a cheat because most of the books I read are ebooks and audiobooks because I can't see very well, and I like to do that. And a lot of my physical books, my mom has them in the US, and she's very kindly keeping them for me, my stepmom. And so I do have this book, which is I don't know where I got this from. Probably a job or some kind of volunteer work I did in the US. And then when I came to Mexico, I brought a lot of my teaching books with me. So obviously this is for people who want to learn English. And it came to me in this condition, okay? So I did not do this to it. It's not that bad, really. I think it looks worse in real life than it does on camera. But you can see right here, it's like it was already like that. Plus, when you have students, whether they're adults or students, or adults or children, they're pretty hard on books. So, yeah. Actually, this one, I'm surprised it stayed as good as it has. I don't really use it that much because, well, right now I'm not teaching. But also, yeah, it's not the best. I have better books, so. But physically. All right, number 7, Northanger Abbey. An abbey. Yes, it was delightful to be really in an abbey. But she doubted as she looked round and round, whether anything within her observation would have given her the consciousness. Name a book that wasn't as creepy or dramatic as you thought it would be. So this one is kind of a cheat. No, I don't think so. So I did a standalone review for this book, but it was The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. I also read this for Jane Austen July because Anne Radcliffe was a contemporary, and this is a book that's really important to the Gothic genre. So I guess I was expecting it to be a little bit creepier. I mean, it's a strange book because if you explain the like if I were just to explain the plot to somebody, it would sound creepy. But when I was reading it, the way it's written, and it was so long, and you get all these detailed scenes of description of the mountains, um, and the way that the character is always fainting, I don't know. It was more campy to me than scary. Although it's definitely dramatic. Because she's fainting. This girl is fainting constantly. All the time she's fainting. So, that was it. Number 8, Portsmouth. The smallness of the house and thinness of the walls brought everything so close to her that, added to the fatigue of her journey and all her recent agitation, she hardly knew how to bear it. Name a book that disappointed you when you revisited it. I had a really hard time with this one. I ended up picking the 13 Problems by Agatha Christie. I liked it though. Like, I enjoyed the book, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I had when I read it when I was much younger. Like, when I was younger, I just felt like, oh my gosh, this is the most crazy book. I don't. And then when I reread it when I was older, I was like, it's okay. It's nice. And some of the stories are like kind of over the top, and it's a Miss Marple. It's a group of short stories. I don't care for Miss Marple's nephew very much, so I didn't like that he is featured so much in the 13 Problems. And Miss Marple is also a little bit older. It's weird because like she's older in the 13 Problems and seems more like kind of um, just physically more frail. And I enjoy the Miss Marple books more when she's like more engaged and she's doing things. Yeah, so it was good. I liked it. It's not like I didn't like it. It was just sort of a disappointment because I was reading it and I was like, oh, I remember this book. Like, it's so good. It's so like amazing. And then I read it and I'm like, oh, there's other Agatha Christie's that are better. Like, I don't know what I was expecting, but it's weird when you read stuff when you're a kid and then you come back to it later and your perception is so different. Number 9 is Kellyridge Hall. Principal seat, Kellyridge Hall, is the county of Somerset. Name a book from your ancestral home. So, I live in Mexico now. I've lived in Mexico for 8 years, so quite a while. But I'm originally from the US, and my family lives in the northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. And there was a book published not that long ago called Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of family and a culture in crisis by J.D. Vance. So that book takes place in Middletown, Ohio, which is like an hour or so but from where my family lives. And it's an interesting book because he talks about, and it's not a thing that people talk about a lot in the U.S., that his family is originally from Appalachia, and then they migrate to other parts of the, like Ohio, and it happened a lot, and that happened with my family too. So a lot of my family is from like Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia and sort of the Appalachian region. And my grandparents moved out of there to get jobs because there were no jobs. And I was really, really lucky that because some families moved to the cities to work in factories, and then some families were able to go to university. And my family, like my grandma's dad, he only had a third grade education, but he had 9 children, and 8 of them, even most of there was only one that didn't, went to university, including the girls. And this would have been in the 1950s. So my family, because of that, like really put a large emphasis on education, um, which I think helps a lot. Even if you don't have money, it helps to prevent a lot of the issues that poverty and generational poverty create. And obviously education doesn't have to always be like formal education, but just that importance of sort of always improving yourself wherever you're at, like today, like improving yourself. And that was really drilled in, and I was very fortunate that yeah. But when I was reading it, it was interesting because the way it's described is that it's that whole region, is because it's about a family who deals with addiction and deals with poverty. And it definitely is around that area, but it was really interesting to me, like listening to a lot of the pundits or people on NPR to talk about the book, and that was partially why I read it, because I wanted to see like what is happening here. And the way they talked about it was like that it was this whole Midwest is like, and I mean, for me personally, even though I could relate to the area and I could relate to the history of that family, it was just as foreign to me as people reading it in New York or wherever they happen to be. Like, and I felt like that was unfortunate. I mean, he was telling his story, so obviously that's his story. But yeah, to just sort of blanket a whole like region is like, well, all these people don't have education, and a lot of people think that about Kentucky, which is interesting because I'm from Kentucky. Like, and it's a very diverse state. Like, you will meet all kinds of people, like all from all over the world, from all different backgrounds, and it's like obviously depends on the region that you're in. But yeah, so that's my for bad or for good. That is my generation, or my her ancestry. Can't talk. Yeah, I'm talking about how people from Kentucky. I can't talk. All right, number 10, Pemberley. They had now entered a beautiful walk by the side of the water, and every step was bringing forward a nobler fall of ground. Name a book that you are ready to dive into. Okay, so this one was easy, and I have to pick a Jane Austen book because it's Jane Austen July. Is Northanger Abbey. Part of the reason that I was trying to fly through The Mysteries of Udolpho was because I really wanted to read that before I read Northanger Abbey, because I thought it would be interesting to read it in that way, because I feel like most people who read Northanger Abbey first and then they read The Mysteries of Udolpho, but obviously at that time most people probably would have been the opposite way. And so I wanted to do it that way and see if it gave me a different sort of perception. But also what ended up happening was I like really just wanted to get through The Mysteries of Udolpho so I could get to Northanger Abbey. So as soon as I get caught up with Mansfield Park, because right now I'm a little bit behind in my Jane Austen July reading, I will get started on Northanger Abbey, and I'm excited for it. So those are all my answers. Let me know if you would like to do this video, or if you have done this video, please let me know down below, because I would love to see other people's videos. And please like and subscribe if you haven't, because I'm a new channel. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.